Hey and welcome to Discard. Today we've got another Game Room Tours video. This is the series where we take in pictures or videos of other people's game collections and we take a look at them. We look for cool ideas, cool layouts, cool stuff in the collections. It's just really awesome. I'm a little sick today, so bear with me, but let's take a look. So the first game room that we have today was sent in from Redbox Collections. And Redbox Collections did a little bit different than most normal people do, and they actually sent in videos of their collections. We have some really good shots, some nice clean images of all the different things that are in their collection. So the first pan shot of this collection, you get a really good idea of this smaller space that Redbox has for putting all of their different games. From the left to the right, you have a bunch of glass displays, and then he pans all the way over to the right to see some of these black shelving units that he has that are just packed full of games and collectibles. There's a couple upper shelves in this room that are used for pop figures. So he's used that upper lining of the room that's typically just not used in a game collection or, people's rooms. And he's utilized that for putting his pop figures, which all seem to be new in box. Midway through that pan that they gave us, you can see that there's also a little workspace with a laptop with some awesome things going on that laptop. But what's amazing to me is that the space is also useful. So they could easily use this as a place to go, sit down, get some work done, work on some projects, but also have all these awesome games and collectibles around them. From the top to the bottom, starting at the PS3 games, he has a lot of those visually available. So when you walk into this room, you get to see all that fantastic artwork, and then you get all the way down to the very bottom, and a ton of PS2 and Xbox 360 games are sitting there. So you can see those games. If you want to play one of those games, it's going to take you 1 second to pick out one of those favorite games that you have front faced. There's also a couple of different shelves in this black bookcase that have a bunch of pop figures, and they've taken them and kind of made a little coliseum around some figures and different items that they have there. It just makes for a nice little focal point in the shelf and kind of breaks it up. And another pan shot of his collection, he goes from the bottom to the top of a nice clear fronted cabinet. This has a nice glass front. It seems to be a wooden design, which I kind of really like. I really like the look of wood in a collection, as you'll see in one of the collections later. But he's using this cabinet for figures. He's got a bunch of Star Wars stuff at the bottom, all the way up to the top where he's got some really cool figures at the very top and a bunch of Pokemon items in there. The internal lighting really makes this really awesome because at night when you come into this room, this thing is gonna glow and give that nice yellow glow off of all of those internal lights and just make it a really nice focal point. And you're just gonna enjoy being in that space. That's what display's all about, is being in a room that you like being inside of. And another thing I noticed in the end of this pan, he kind of pans from the left to the right of the room in the back, and you get some of these print shots in there. I really like these original prints, and going from those prints down to the laptop, you can even see the laptop is clearly doing some important work down there. He has a couple little lighting units giving some nice little blue light down there as well, which is very nice. And another nice shot of these glass cases. A lot of people really love these four-sided, completely clear glass cases. And I see them time and time again. And I think they do a really good job of displaying specifically figures. I think they really hold true to being one of the best places that you can display figures because you can see all the sides of your figure and really get the maximum display value out of it. And obviously he's got a ton of DS games in here and probably some 3DS games. They're kind of stacked on top of each other, so you do only get to see the spines, but it does give an overall idea of just the breadth of the collection. There's a ton of video games in here. He's nicely added a couple shots where he's turning on a light in the room. I have talked about these in the past. It does make a nice little focal point to have some of these lit items that come from different game manufacturers that are out there. I really like them to make a little spot in your collection pop. Of course, one of the things that may be an issue for this collection is that I've noticed a lot of the birds in it are actually angry, but you pan it far enough right, you don't notice that, and you see some awesome Game & Watches in a nice clear acrylic display. He's taken each one of them and layered them on top of each other at kind of an angle, and that's just way better than stacking them on each other or shoving them in the back of a shelf. These things were meant to be seen, they were meant to be looked at, and I really love the opportunity to take a look at all these Game & Watches. And he does take us around his collection to show off some of his lighting. He's got these little lighting pucks that are RGB and they flash different colors. I assume that you can go white or blue or red or whatever color it is that you want. but he has them kind of flashing different colors here to show off what that looks like, going through all the different shelves and showing the effect that they have. And I will say that they do have a major effect on each shelf that you use, and when you use this kind of lighting and just light up a single shelf, that's going to be where your eye is driven to generally. I would say the biggest problem with this kind of puck lighting is hiding the direct light itself. In the end, you don't really want to be seeing the puck as much as you want to see the light being transferred onto the items that you're showing. And then the last shot that he gives us is his actual TV stand. I kind of assume that this is in a different room altogether. It's got a nice big HD TV sitting there. He's got his consoles down below. I really like the stand that his TV is on. It's white, it's big, but it's also minimalist. I really like minimalist stuff, especially when it comes to the environment that you're playing the game in. And he's got minimal stuff on top of it. He's not taken all those figures. He's taken those figures and displayed them in a different room or on a different shelf. And then on top of this, he's just got the absolute important stuff. He's got his controllers, his consoles below, and the TV. And what more do you need than that when you're going to play your game? Now, taking a quick break from some of these bigger collection, we go to Tyler's collection. This was sent in with several different pictures, and he's got this nice vertical shot of one of his shelves. I do think that this shelf is very pleasing to look at. One of the first things I noticed is he's got this wooden veneered shelf, and you don't typically see these all that much anymore, especially with me looking at different collections. I either see white shelving or black shelving or gray shelving, but there's something kind of nice and warm about having that kind of wooden look. And Tyler's given me a lot of shots of this shelf and the shelf next to it, and every single level of it that he's kind of taken time to organize and make displayed. And in one of the wider pictures, he shows that he has some of these LED lights that he's put on the upper side of his shelves, so the light can rain down on his games and his collectibles. And I do think these look really good in person. The problem with taking a picture of these is you are getting that direct light straight into the camera, and they look super ultra bright. If they are that bright in reality, I mean, that's going to take away from your shelf. But if they are dimmer than that, and they do have the ability to kind of rain down all that beautiful light onto your stuff, it looks awesome. It can be a really good thing. Now, on the lighting alone, though, I would say that there is a big advantage to hiding those lights. And again, that's one of the biggest problems with these shelving units, is finding that way of hiding that light behind something. But you can definitely see the effect that the lighting has on these shelves. They pop out, they look great, and that's definitely where your eye is going to be drawn. If you do have a place in your collection, you may not even have noticed in his lower shelves, he's got a little bit of other types of stuff at the lower right there on a different shelf. But you don't really notice that because this light is drawing your eye into this space. In one of the up-close shots, he shows his Lego Mario stuff that came out this year. And at first I wasn't so sure about this. I didn't think it'd be fun, but having a 3-year-old, I really think these are awesome. There's so many different things you can do with them, and you can spend a lot of time with your kids or even with yourself playing with these and setting them up in different ways and making your own display. But it's definitely a really cool way to utilize the top of a shelf, which is where this is at. But a just quick overview of some of the little mini displays that he's got set up. He's got a GameCube shelf where he's got all his games sitting there next to each other, as well as a lot of figures sitting out there in front of it, a lot of Animal Crossing figures sitting out there. I think this is just a really nice snippet of the collection because it shows that he's displaying everything and not just cramming it onto a shelf as he gets it. And then one of my favorite shelves is the one where he's displayed all of his handheld Game Boys. And this is really cool. You can take these little, completely inexpensive display units. These are for displaying coins originally. I made a video a little while back. I'll link that below. But you can get these little displays, put your Game Boys on them, and it changes it completely from just having these flat or leaning them against something to having a full-on display. Another thing on the shelf is custom game cases. He's taken his carts that he's decided he doesn't want to have in the open air anymore, and he's put them in custom game cases, and I think that's awesome. One note that he put in his email is also having to do with this shelf for all of his amiibo. When you first look at it, it looks like he's purchased a unit that is tiered for all of his amiibo to be sitting out there to be able to see all of his amiibo in this awesome shelf. But he told me that essentially he's made this out of different boxes that he's gotten over time. He uses the lids for smaller steps and then the bases of the boxes behind those to make that next step up. So he's made this complete tiered display out of just boxes that he's gotten over time, which I think is a great use of that. Completely inexpensive, but you get a product like this that really displays all of your amiibo. But just kind of glancing over the rest of his collection, you can see that he has every shelf kind of dedicated to a sort of theme. He's got Nintendo Switch, he's got Wii display, a Wii U display, Super Nintendo and NES. He's got all of these shelves laid out so that every console has its own space to be collected in, and I think that's really great. So essentially he's just taken 2 shelves in a smaller space and turned it into an all-out display. And then to round out today's Game Room tours, we have another collection from Digital Gray, who sent in an awesome amount of shots of their game room. From the get-go, I noticed that this is definitely a game room that has a very modern feel to it. From where the TV is, the lighting, to even the games themselves. A lot of the games here are PS4 related. The first shot I want to talk about is just the TV stand, the television in this general area. I always like having that lighting behind the television. I have that in my own game room. It just adds a little bit of relief to your eye instead of just having that bright screen kind of screaming at your pupils. This is a great way to kind of bring some of that back. And he's utilized this space more than just the television itself. Up above the TV in the back, he also has a bunch of figures from PS4 games. A lot of these are exclusives. And these figures are no cheap thing to get your hands on. So this is a really nice collection of these quite large figures. But it gives another zoomed out picture of this area, and you can see his TV there. It's all really nice. All the colors are working really well. But then next to that, he has a ton of games sitting out on his wall. And I would say this is the biggest centerpiece of his entire collection, is just the way that he's laid these out perfectly on his wall. I don't really see any that are off or angled wrong or anything like that. From what he said in the email, he's picked up these brackets for displaying every single game from Etsy, and these are probably 3D printed and very inexpensive. So just to talk about those for a second, having that kind of major impact by just using up an empty wall is incredible. It doesn't seem like it's too bulky or there's too much stuff in there. It just seems like this was an art piece that was meant to be installed in this area, and I really like that kind of pattern that he has and laying them out like that. I assume he can just pick these games off of these brackets and go ahead and play them. But this is a great way to put your PS4 games out there and just have them look awesome next to your TV stand. Now below those, there's also some wall-mounted controller stands, and this kind of adds to this overall effect of James Bonding into your game collection, picking your weapon, and then going at it. I really love that feeling of just having all those choices out there for you, and you get your controller, your game, and then you're good to go. It's really awesome. And then another little nook of his game collection, he has what I could only really describe as kind of a shrine area. Now these shelving units he has on both sides of this area are from IKEA, I believe. I can't confirm that, but I believe these you can find at IKEA, similar shelves like this. And they have this kind of feel of having a bunch of floating shelves without being a bunch of individually mounted floating shelves. You just mount the entire unit and you have that really nice effect. But I guess it was hard for me to kind of put my finger on what I felt in this area, what it kind of made me feel. But it's definitely like a movie theater kind of setup. You've got these posters on the wall of this big, beautiful artwork, and you have these lights kind of down below, kind of lighting it up from the bottom. Very similar to what you would see in a movie theater. Kind of gives you that nostalgic feel of going into a theater and seeing a movie and seeing all those new movie posters on the wall. And below that kind of shrine movie theater setup, he has a Kallax unit or a cube style shelf that's similar to a Kallax unit from IKEA. And this shelf is it's just a great way of displaying some other collectibles. You can see he's not filling the space with a ton of video games and just packing it in there. He's just taking each shelf and filling it slightly with a few different collectibles and just making it look good overall. And there are a couple other nooks and crannies in this collection that I won't quite get into, but definitely overall, I really like some of those major ideas, like that wall just being covered in PS4 games. I really like that idea. I want to steal it and take it. I've already put one of my wall mounts all the way up with some of those collector mounts that I've had in a previous video. I really love those things. I love the idea of taking an empty wall and turning it into an art piece. And I don't think you're going to walk into this room and not know the theme. I think overall, he's kind of taken that thread and put it throughout everything and just made an awesome collection. So the question now is, do you guys want to send in your pictures or videos of your collection? If you do want to do that, there's a link in the description to a video that explains exactly how to do that. But thanks for coming and checking out Discard today. I appreciate everybody sharing the videos, getting out there and telling people there's a Gameroom display channel that exists. If you guys are looking for ways to display things in your game collection, you can always type in that thing and then Discard after it to probably find a video dedicated to displaying that thing. I also have a playlist on the channel, Game Collection Display Ideas, and you can click on that to find all of the display ideas that I've made to date in the last 3 years. But if you like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. But otherwise, have a great day and collect what you love.
With you, the sun is shining 24/7. 'Cause when we're together, it feels like we're in heaven. If it will get dark, you'll be my million stars. I know I can lean on you. Oh, you catch me like a leaf falling from a tree. If I'll be a shooting star, you make a wish. No, I don't fake this kind of feeling, never felt so real. My heart is on the table 'cause you're my everything. I do, I wanna marry you. 'Cause when you're around, I know it's true. The way you make me feel is so good, baby. So good, so good. Every single day we spend apart, I wanna be with you.